One live.
One to say we are live. All right. Hey,
All right.
Dave, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. What's going on in AI this week?
Oh, man, tons of stuff. As we were just talking in a little bit, my background's a little weird today.
Yeah, no, it's janky on me too.
Man, I think the theme is lots of progress with new models, especially in the math and science department.
Mhm.
Maybe a little plateau in the kind of DIY vibe coding space.
Mhm.
I know you're working on some advancements in voice stuff. Maybe we can start there. I know you've been hooking up voice to phones, and we're kind of dealing with the under the iceberg part of
Yeah.
all of that stuff and compliance and security. And yeah, what have you been doing over there?
Well, the thing that I found interesting this week is some of the voice models that we're setting up for particular businesses. We're seeing some unforeseen functionality. So, for example, we're building out some voice agents for the mall spaces, and we're getting more towards testing these in a complete way so that they can see if it handles all the scenarios. And the one that I found interesting this week is that these agents need to be able to handle bomb threats, right? So I've been sent information from the information on this and how they should handle it, but I also got some sample bomb threat phone calls which I go through and I listen to get in the right mindset to be programming the agent to be able to handle these things. And it's kind of a little bit disturbing to be listening to something like that, but also I was thinking how interesting it is that we're going to be preventing like a human from having to deal with these types of really like weird situations, and the workflow has to be able to handle these situations. So maybe it's like forwarding a call off to the security team and alerting people via an SMS message right away that there could be an active threat within the mall space, and giving them details of that so that they're all able to follow protocol right away and start to handle the threat and examine the threat, see if the threat is valid. And I just think it's really cool that we're getting down to this level of like all of the intricacies of how these businesses need to use voice agents, and we're able to craft those workflows in a very thoughtful way that addresses those concerns. But I also just found it freaky to be listening to like content like that and having to get in that mindset to like deal with a threat like that. But I mean, like, it's really interesting that we're able to come up with solutions that are going to really help these spaces deal with these situations as efficiently as possible, possibly more efficient than a human would have, right? So it's this is, and the stakes are high with these sort of things. So it's interesting just to be designing solutions that address these problems, I guess.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the voice agent workflows that you're working on? I know we've got them answering calls, making calls, but we're also working on alerts through SMS and that kind of thing. Do you want to talk a little bit about the process involved?
Yeah, so there's tooling within that tech stack which allows us to do outbound calling within calls, call forwarding, SMSs, but you can also hook up into MCP servers to run workflows like through N8N, and you can trigger workflows. So we're able to set up workflows that include an MCP call to check the availability on your calendar. And then if there's calendar space available, work with the human who's on the line to find a mutually agreeable time that's available with the time that they're trying to book with the person. So it's interesting to see all of this happening on the fly within a call. And I also think from like an economic perspective, it's interesting because these voice agents, essentially, you're paying for them by the second. And they're doing all of this administrative work whilst they're on the call with the human end user. So all of this is done maybe within like that 5 minutes, and that's what the business is paying the agent for. So it's interesting that all of this labor is sort of being streamlined within a very short period of time, and it's all happening while the agent is talking to the human end user. So I think, it's really going to change the economics of these things for businesses. It's going to allow them to repurpose possibly the labor that was less efficient on those phones to another area of their business to elevate the user experience for the people who are in their malls or whatever spaces that those people are in within their business. And I think that's the interesting part. And if you look at McDonald's, for example, who has all those ordering screens now within McDonald's, they actually have more employees than they had prior to that happening. And what's happening is they're repurposing that labor into their kitchen to be able to handle a higher volume of Uber Eats orders, or to be able to help people in the front of house. And I know that they're much more in the front of house now. So it's interesting because it's changing the entire dynamics of business operations. And when labor is being freed up in one part of the business model, I'm not seeing people just fire their labor. What I'm seeing is that they're trying to take that labor into a new area of their business and figure out, like, how do I make the user experience better now that we have the same costing, but we have more labor available to us, essentially.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I know you've been doing some Twilio integrations with voice and kind of putting together a kind of an enterprise stack for this kind of thing. And I think we're at the phase where enterprises realize that AI can make business operations much more optimized, but they're still a little hesitant on the unknown. It's getting to the point where the unknown with AI is nearing equal to the unknown of a human. You know, like you can only train a human so well as you know, and humans have other things going on in their life. They can have bad days. This kind of thing. So, you know, the next 3 to 6 months, I'm sure we'll see a lot of an increased improvement in reliability and predictability coming out of AI. And that has a lot to do with the advancement of the models. And we were speaking a bit before the show here today about what's new in the models coming out. What are you seeing out there for the last
I'm seeing a lot of interesting stuff. I know that Alibaba came out with a new model called Qwen 3, and this has been a what's billed as a disruptive model. It's very good at coding, and they're coming out with some very interesting things. But also, Sapient came out with a hierarchical reasoning model. With very little training, they were able to outperform all of the current top models in the market on solving Sudokus and mathematical calculations. So instead of having a transformer-based model, it's a completely different reasoning model. And we're seeing this sort of like two-tiered thinking, and they're trying to mimic the way that the human brain works and reasons through problems with, like with forefront, just like forefront reasoning, and then background, like deeper logic. And they're starting to hit that with these models, which is interesting. And also, DeepSeek is coming out with the model advancements, and they're really pushing the envelope on resource usage to get to that endpoint. And what they're saying now is that could be economically disruptive for the West if we don't start to find ways to make these models more efficient from a resource usage standpoint. Because if the models in other jurisdictions are producing results with so little power consumption, it's going to start to become a competitive edge, like a competitive advantage problem, right? So lots of interesting stuff happening there. Also there's Google DeepMind has come up with a mixture of recursions model, recursive transformation architecture, which is 2 times faster inference, 50% lower memory usage. So you can see that like Google's trying to strike back against like DeepSeek and trying to solve that problem, which is really interesting. And just like a lot of disruptive stuff happening in the model space, but sort of like underground. Also, GPT-5 is set to come out in, I believe, early August, which probably is also going to be disruptive with regards to like how we're using LLMs within the tech stacks. So I'm excited. The next month, like leading up to September, I think we're going to see a lot of very interesting stuff happening because people get back to business in September, and I feel like everyone's gonna have their like best hand on display like going into September. So I'm excited about that. And then Chris, I know you and I also were starting to speak about how recently there's been a lot of like medical advancements and health sciences advancements because of AI. And you and I were speaking about the first successful surgery on a live pig, where they used a Da Vinci telerobot, which surgeons use this robot to do surgeries remotely. But this surgical tool, the Da Vinci robot, was trained on an AI model to do a gallbladder surgery. And it did its first successful surgery with no human intervention on a live pig. So this is something, and this is something that went under the radar for like, and it wasn't like big headline news, but I mean, like, this is a really pivotal moment in AI health tech, because it proves that we can start doing these surgeries in animal tests and successfully, and we're going to edge towards like maybe these surgeries start to happen with like lower mortality rates than they would if they were performed by humans. And I was saying to you too, it's interesting that you can equip those surgical environments with other layers of like visual input. So you could have like infrared visual input. You could be looking at it like through different sets of eyes while you're doing that surgery. And I think just the possibilities are endless and really exciting, and lots of cool stuff happening.
How do they train up an AI surgeon? Is that just kind of, I heard something about it, just like watch 10,000 videos of surgery.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I think that's probably it, is they have all these top down like surgeries of like the open surgical cavity. And they're probably also able to identify all of that anatomical structure, which then the model can reason through and see all the, like all of the context of it, I guess, at that point, right? So I'm not entirely sure, and I'd love to do a little bit more learning around how that model was trained, but I do know that it executed the surgery without any issues, and there was absolutely zero human intervention. So that's really, really odd and amazing. And then also in the health sciences space, Google DeepMind came out with an advancement in AlphaFold, which is a updated model capable of predicting protein structures with 99% accuracy. So this is able to do modeling on drug discovery, medical research, personalized healthcare by developing and enabling faster development of treatment for diseases. So lots of amazing stuff happening in the medical space. Most of it is beyond me, but I just like, as an AI provocateur, I like to be on top of these things, right? But yeah, it's just like great to see that it's not just like the language model space that's being advanced at light speed. There's things happening around us that are gonna change sort of the way that humanity looks at medicine forever.
We have a friend and we're working on a project for her to put together an application, and her question back to us was like, wow, how did you develop this application so quickly? Were you vibe coding? And she goes, if you're vibe coding, what does that mean? And I think that there's a lot of definition around that, but I know you had some thoughts on the state of vibe coding, and we should probably talk about that a little bit, and then we can get into some of the new tools and updates going on in there.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think vibe coding is when you just give like a model or an agent a vibe of what you want to do, and it sort of fills in the blanks, and you're not really giving it all of the corners of what to do. You're just sort of giving it like a very vague prompting from like a layperson's perspective, and the models are sort of filling in the blanks. And I said there's a difference between someone who's like a pedestrian that just starts vibe coding versus someone who's like a product manager who's using an agentic coding tool to very clearly push towards like a very clear product vision. And I think I'm not sure what you would call it when a product manager uses a tool like that, but it's more than like just giving a system a vibe. It's like you're giving it very detailed sets of instructions on how you want certain areas of the system to function and how you want them to look and feel. And I think like the idea of vibe coding just to be like, create a 3D video game that's similar to Pac-Man and da 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 da, and it spits out like a working thing, and you're like, oh cool, I'm a coder now, which is great. It's cool that you can get there with AI, but I mean, like, we're able to use like agentic coding tools for very specific purposes and very specific end needs, and for example, create a tool where I'm able to put data in a data warehouse, pull it via API, and create an agentic layer that's, you can talk to your data and create heat maps for it and do all of these things. Like, you need to have a very specific technical wherewithal to be like defining those things to the tool, and understanding where the data is coming from, and what a good output looks like, and all of these things. So I think I think there's a lot going on in that agentic coding space, and there's some noise, but I'm excited that it's getting a lot of people talking about coding and participating in using these tools, because I think the future is going to be very hard for people who aren't embracing like AI by this point. And I think just the fact that some people are doing that stuff and are excited by it is like a good sign for them, because they're at least trying to subscribe to that world of AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And we do a lot of kind of playing around with all of the different kind of, I guess you call them vibe coding applications, so we know what's going on. And there's just a few updates on tools. We've kind of found, I don't know if you'd agree, but the most success with Replit. We were using Manus for a while, and DeepSeek's out there, and with their everyone has an agentic-y kind of vibe coding-ish thing. Google has the Google AI Studio now. Claude has this kind of artifact stuff. Are you playing around with anything new, or any evolution in the tool sets you've been using?
I've been looking at that new Google tool, but quite honestly, for me, I've gone deep on Replit right now, because I'm seeing that they're making partnerships with deployment partnerships, which are going to allow you to have more powerful deployments, and they're going to allow you to open up GPU processing environments for like really heavy processor load and multi-agentic environments. So like, while I'm seeing a lot going on around, for me right now, from a use perspective, I think Replit is like the best one that fits what I'm doing right now. But I'm keeping the door open, because there's an awful lot going on right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I was just thinking about how I had an interesting conversation on another podcast last week with Tom Cranston, and he's kind of the Adobe Experience Manager guy, and he's been deep within that product as an architect since they bought it from Day. And our discussion was all around the new role of essentially the development architecture to give AI rails, and he got right down to kind of folder level architecture, where his use case was, he was working on an AEM implementation and threw some AI at it, and the AI went in and started tinkering with Adobe's code. And it was like, no, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So this new role of engineer architect that knows how to establish the foundations of an application or website before having AI go kind of add to your bench strength and spin things up. So I thought that was kind of interesting, kind of back to your point of, it's not about reducing staff right now. It's about, enabling them or changing their role and re-educating them to kind of be architects of a slightly different mindset, to know where to let AI go and do its thing.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to, this idea of vibe coding is kind of like, you've got your Lego set now and you can make some cool stuff, but it's the last mile isn't there yet, and it's not quite enterprise ready. So there, but look at the progress that's been made over the last year. It's
Amazing.
crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think within the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to be at the point where a lot of the junior developer stuff is just falling off the map. And that doesn't mean junior developers are going to fall off the map. Like we were talking about that article that said, well, if regular people can put use vibe coding to put junior developers out of a job, imagine what junior developers can do with agentic coding tools. And I thought that was an interesting article, because there are some junior developers that do have a good idea of product vision and product management, and will be able to make that leap into steering certain development. But there also are junior devs that are not that type of person, that are going to have to fit into a different part of the food chain, right? So I think it's just interesting, though, because if you look at history, technology, they talk about displacing labor, but that's just something that happens in the short run. Always the productivity and the benefit to humanity gets raised up, and the amount of jobs always expands in the long term, because business is constantly growing, population's constantly growing, and we're constantly having to serve new needs. So I don't get scared by this stuff. Like, there are labor market shocks that will occur because of disruptive technology, but I think also we're going to be able to repurpose those people and train them at a speed that we've never been able to train people at, using AI tools in a different way, right? So I think it's just this interesting time, and I don't think anyone needs to be scared. I think we all just need to buckle up and get ready for a wild ride, because it's going to be a wild ride. But nothing can stop this one, right? It's like sort of like that Indiana Jones boulder at the start of the movie that's coming, and you just like, okay, it's coming. Like, I just got to keep running forward until like I get out of this place, right? So I feel like that's kind of where we're at right now. We got this giant ball rolling towards us, and all of us are like, okay, now what, right? Like, the only option is just run as fast as you can. That's it, right?
Yeah, that's really true. And from a business perspective, as a company that we've been grounded in this idea of creating beautiful technology, and that's how we do that is changing pretty quickly. We
It
used
is.
to sit down and create CD-ROMs and then websites. But the cool thing is now there's all these other useful applications of AI that we can help our customers with. It kind of builds around the base of their content, which is distributed through their website, but now voice is content. AI prompts are your content.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of content out there, and this kind of new way of doing things. And I just wanted to chat maybe a little bit about some of the cool stuff we've been doing over the past couple of months. It's ranged from supporting legal organizations with onboarding voice AI that will kind of take parts of the conversation and put it into forms or CRM or databases. You've been working on a lot of wayfinding solutions for kind of commercial real estate, booking engines. It's if you can imagine technology doing something, we can get proof of concepts developed really quickly.
And I would say, even if you can't imagine that, reach out to us and start getting us into the fold of what your business operations look like. And Chris and I can very quickly, like, I have a background in economics, and I know that Chris is like very attuned to business operations as well. And I think it's sort of like one of those things where it's a puzzle, and a business comes to us and says, this is what we do, and how do we leverage that new technology into our operational model? And I think that's the interesting part, is everything is like a puzzle with business operations, and trying to find creative ways to leverage new technology into that operational model is just, it's a fun problem to solve, right?
What models are you using personally these days? I know they kind of keep bouncing around and getting a little bit better. I've kind of switched over to Perplexity's my go-to, because it'll use all the models. GPT is currently the best I find for creating quick graphics.
It is.
Into DALL-E, it'll get fonts and layout pretty decent. What are you using over there?
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm using those like multi model tools like Perplexity or Blackbox when I want to do side by sides. My go-to right now, because I find that like Grok and GPT are very ahead on the project and task side.
Mm.
So like I'm able to set up projects within GPT with very specific purposes. So like doing grant building and and letters of intent for as you know, I work on a board of directors with a community center, and that they spend like 4 or 5 hours writing individual grants, and we've created a tool which can identify grants that fit the organization very well, and then also write grants for those grants that do fit in under 3 minutes. And then it just takes maybe 20 minutes for the executive director of the center to polish those grants up now. So we're able to spit out about 20 grants in the time we were doing one grant before. And when it comes to fundraising, that's a huge difference, because if you are able to get that volume of grant proposals out there, the amount of like potential money coming into a nonprofit organization like that drastically changes. So just coming up with solutions that are mindful of the particular organization or business that we're tailoring solutions to, I guess, is the name of the game right now. Just trying to find the best fitting tool to do that.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned earlier we're also Salesforce partners. They came out with, I think they're calling it Agent Force 3.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were at 2.
Yeah, I know. And it's like being built as the most powerful agentic environment. And it's really cool. I think like that sort of stuff where Salesforce has been like a little bit silent and probably developing those other iterations of the tool, just behind the scenes. But it feels like this one, they're ready to blast out there, and they've got a certain level of confidence that it's going to be disruptive. So yeah, I'm really excited to see that. And I know that we have some Salesforce people in our circle, so I'm ready to pick their brain and start trying to get as much information about that as possible, and to sort of see what's going on that front. But yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, I spend a lot of my time in my role at Dotfusion on keeping the pipeline full.
Yeah.
And AI is both an awesome tool and a pain in the butt, because it's increasing the amount of spam out there. So
Yes.
how do you get your message to the right person, I guess, at the right time through the right channel? And there's a lot going on in that space, everything from kind of lead development and list generation to outreach and email and voice calling and that kind of stuff. So, if anyone's got any questions about building their outbound stack, we're pretty advanced right now at that, and also kind of mindful of people's inboxes and their availability. But it is a good question. How do you get your message out to people? And AI is a big part of that. Maybe we just do a whole session on that sometime. But
I think that's good, yeah, because I think it's becoming easier because of the tooling, but harder because once those systems recognize that there's that amount of generated content, they're going to start to like really fight against AI generated content. I think YouTube is going to have problems because VO3 and workflow automations allow people to spin up automated workflows that are constantly creating VO3 videos and constantly posting them to YouTube. And it's going to become like, there's going to become like a sort of, and there's already problems on YouTube with content that's, not the best or whatever, but this adds a whole other layer of like AI generated content, which is going to far surpass the amount of human authored content at some point, just because of the fact that it's so easy to automate and just set it and forget it for these content creators, right?
Yeah, really true. And speaking of content and content creation, I don't think we've ever talked about how AI is impacting the music industry. And, in my past lives, I used to curate a lot of music and DJ a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea of what it meant to be a great DJ was to be able to, pick the right song at the right time to keep people on the dance floor. And there's a certain cadence to that discipline.
Yeah.
I mean, music is math. And, if if there's some kind of camera on the dance floor and the boogie rate is starting to go down.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we need a few more beats per minute and a bit more cowbell.
Yeah. That's it.
It's going to be pretty wild out there. And I just like switched over my whole music production process to, no DAW, or like there's no software. It's all kind of still digital, but it's all kind of analog digital kind
Well,
of.
it's funny that you say that, because you make me think, like, is there going to be a world where music is made by AI but on the fly based on people's reactions, right? So it's
you
almost
get access to 1,000 instruments.
Yeah. And it's almost like sort of like jazz was at one time, where there's no set beat and it's sort of pivoting based on the vibe of the people who are playing it. But what about on the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's like pivoting based on the vibe of the people who are not playing it but listening to it?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like reverse jazz.
We have a lot of themes for future episodes.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's kind of like all this stuff tickles the brain a lot, though, to think about, and I love it. And I'm excited. And as we always say, if you guys are interested, have any projects or any curiosities about AI, you don't have to pay to come talk to Chris and us. We'll always gladly talk to you about your ideas and see if what we can do fits your business, and see if we can look at your operations and help you guys out, and maybe work on something small, give you guys some proof that what we're doing works, and then start working together on bigger things.
Amazing. I know we've been trying to find just the right time for this Ask Us Anything kind of session. I think from here on in, we're looking at 3:00 on Wednesdays.
Yeah, that works. That's perfect. Yeah, and I think that's good. Probably good for the viewers too, because it's a good little hump day show. Just tune in.
Yeah, and I think we'll do some reaching out, so we have some questions, so we can answer questions on the fly with the audience and build this up a little bit. So looking forward to coming at you. Actually, I'll be at the CMS Experts in Montreal next week. I think we'll do live from the floor. We'll have a little roundup of, because everyone's going to be talking about AI and content.
I love it. Maybe you might be able to shark like a guest, like a special guest speaker on the fly. We'll just like.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Let's plan on it. Well, hey, let's sign off. And dude, thanks for joining. I know you got busy days and like youngsters running around.
It's awesome. It's a good life. It's a good life. My cup is full right now.
All right. That's good to hear, bro. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Good to see everybody. And thanks for tuning in. Oh, my hand's getting blocked out. There we go. Bye, everybody.
All right. Ciao. I'm going to end this here, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yep. Sounds good, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.